Live on WFLA Now. This is Run for Fun with running enthusiast Leigh Spann.
Let's go. Welcome back to the Stream Center here at WFLA for this week's episode of Run for Fun with Leigh Spann. We created this show to help more people find the joy in running and walking to help create that healthier lifestyle. I'm your host, Leigh Spann. I'm the meteorologist here at WFLA, but I am also an avid runner. I've been running for more than a dozen years now, and the longer I do it, the more fun I find it. And I know, I hear it all the time. People either dread running or feel like it's just something that they have to do, or sometimes just flat out refuse to do. And so we're here to give you these small tips to really help you find the joy in it. So it's not something that you have to do, and it's not something that you dread. It's something that you get to do and enjoy. And of course, joining me is Maria Williams. Coach Maria. Coach, why do you think people dread something that we love so much?
Oh, for a lot of reasons, Leigh, but mostly because they don't know how to do it correctly. That's a big one. And also because, people use it as punishment in sports growing up. And so we're trying to change that mindset. It doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be. And then, you can go back and listen to or watch previous episodes. And it's little small steps that you can change the way you think about it, the way you approach running. And one of it is just run slower, enjoy it.
And the mindset, change your mindset.
Change your mindset.
There's so many little things. There's so many little things that can change your mindset about running.
And joining being part of the running community is something where you can certainly find the joy in running. And we've tried to create that virtually for you. We haven't talked about this in a while. We have our Strava Run Group now with 96 members. And so what this is Strava is a free app you can download on your phone. You can go to the clubs, you can go to the groups, and you can find a WFLA Run for Fun. And that way you get to interact with people and ask questions. And, we haven't talked about the Strava in a while. So back on April 11th, we had a question, and I wanted to not only ask it and show what some of the people commented about, but also ask Maria to give her some help. So Rosario says that she loves the podcast. Thank you. But she does have a question on a 5K race day. Her PR, the fastest she can run, is about a 10:30 mile. What should her easy runs be?
Yeah, you want to be at least 2 minutes slower per mile on your easy runs, at least. I would say probably 13-minute pace would be good. And maybe some run walking. Yeah,
and so a lot of people, again, think if I can run a 10:30 for my 5K, then every day I go out there, I should run a 10:30. Yeah. So Rosario has said, I know I need to go slower, but how slow? And so I think Chris is one of your runners and do exactly what's supposed to be 2 minutes
Good job,
slower.
Chris,
So
you're right.
12:30. But then, and then Frank, if you don't have a watch or, way to tell that, he says he just slows down to the point that he can breathe almost completely through his nose rather than because if you can do that, then you're going slow enough to keep that heart rate down, basically.
Yeah, I really prefer easy run to be a feeling, not a pace.
Right.
Because we get so caught up in the pace a lot of times. So it really is a feeling, and it should feel, I tell a lot of people, it should feel so dumb that you can't believe you're doing it. It should feel like you're doing nothing, like a 1 to 2 out of a scale from 1 to 10.
And that's so you can recover and do more tomorrow and do more the next day and then do some harder. It's so that you can have those really good runs. Mm-hmm. You can't do the same pace at hard pace all the time.
Yep. And then when you start doing that, your 10:30 mile will come down.
Yes.
It'll start getting faster and faster.
Well, so thank you for Rosario for that. And then last week we talked about cross training and what that actually means and what it doesn't mean. And we did get a lot of questions and comments from that on our Facebook, live Facebook feed that we were doing. And Mike Odewald said that cross training is a great way to keep you on track for your running. And he's done cross training for a number of years. He prefers swimming, which you say.
Mm-hmm. Great. Swimming is great.
Great. Mm-hmm. And so again, what you're trying to do is keep your aerobic endurance up without continuing to hit those same muscles over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now Peter says he's going to break out the Gazelle. Do you remember that? It's a piece of equipment.
I don't remember that.
But basically, it's like a glider.
Actually, now it's coming back to me.
Because, again, we talked about an elliptical. Yep. So it's something that doesn't hurt your, it just uses a little different muscles. It still keeps that energy up. And
Yeah, that's great.
And then Denise says she's actually late in life runner. She started running only about 16 years ago and thought she couldn't run, but quickly learned how to run at a pace that worked for me. And now she leads a C25 or 25K pace in her home school.
Yeah, some of my older runners, they're really, really doing well now just because they're not as beat down as the runners that have been running for a lot of years. So they can do really well.
And, I talked about in our previous episodes that, I started what I felt like was a little late in my late 20s as well. So I'm still sort of
We
learning.
have runners that started in their 50s.
Yes.
And they're crushing it now.
And so today's episode, you can see it at the bottom of the screen there, is Girls on the Run. Now, that is a wonderful program that's national all across the country, but then we have these teams locally. And we're very excited to have Jessica Dvorzek here with Girls on the Run, because I have been part of Girls on the Run with their 5K, but this started way before the 5K the celebratory 5K that's coming up. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about how you got involved with Girls on the Run.
Absolutely. So Girls on the Run, we are a nonprofit organization. We inspire girls to be healthy and joyful and confident while using a fun, experience-based curriculum which integrates running and physical activity. And I got involved because I had graduated, I'd gotten my master's degree in Cleveland, came back to Florida, was living in St. Pete with my fiance, and was trying to find a way to get involved. And I had been running through college and undergrad and wanted to find something that I was passionate about that incorporated that healthy living and lifestyle. Enter Girls on the Run. I saw it actually on a blog post from, back when people blogged all the time about their everyday lives. I saw somebody had talked about Girls on the Run and how it was a national organization. I looked into it and saw that there was a chapter here. Reached out to the executive director at the time, did my first community runner, Sparkle Runner experience, and I was hooked ever since. So that was in 2014. I eventually joined the 5K committee, helped actually put on the Celebration 5K, and then eventually there was a position that opened, and that kind of fell into line with my experience, my skill set. And now I am on staff at Girls on the Run as the development manager.
All right, so that is congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
It's a wonderful way to take something that you were already passionate about and find a real career about it.
Absolutely.
So let's step back and talk about what Girls on the Run is and what it means to these girls and how people can get involved and things like that.
Absolutely. So Girls on the Run, we focus on girls from 3rd through 8th grade. So that really young adolescent age frame. Our program we have a season each fall and spring. It's primarily run out of their schools. We have volunteer coaches that we train that get involved, and they put on a evidence-based curriculum to incorporate life skills, socio-emotional learning, and that is all done through physical activity. And that becomes a vehicle for them to learn how to increase their confidence, how to better their character, how to care for themselves, how to make connections with other girls, and then also how to work within their community. So to make all of those important life skills really, really important for them as they continue to also get this lifelong passion for physical activity as well.
And that's something I'm going to bring in Maria because, showing a young lady at 3rd, 4th, 5th grade that it's fun to exercise, it's fun to be with your friends, that is going to have such a lasting impact from what people now say they dread running. Well, what if you loved it as a 10-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, I actually encouraged my children not to do track, sadly, because I felt like in Florida it was hot, and I felt like a lot of the coaches in the team sports really pushed the kids a little bit too hard, and I wanted them to learn to love it. And actually the research is showing that when you ask kids, the number one question you should be asking kids is, was that fun? Like, was that fun? Did you have fun doing it? And that helps build their confidence if they're having fun doing it instead of feeling like it's a daunting task that their parents are making them do.
And that's certainly, Girls on the Run exemplifies that. Having
makes me
fun.
happy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think one of the misconceptions about Girls on the Run is that it's a running program.
Yeah.
It is not a running program. We are a social emotional learning life skills program. We encourage physical activity. Our 5K is not chipped, not timed
Oh, I love that.
whatsoever. It is
love
a
it.
fun run for our girls, for our coaches, and for our community. And we just encourage physical movement. So
Yeah.
however you can get across that finish line, that's how we want you to do that, whether it is walking, running, skipping, dancing. We've had girls cartwheel across the finish line before.
Yeah,
And that's just
awesome.
that's what we're encouraging is really movement, and that physical activity is so important for not only your physical health, but also your mental health and how you interact with your community, with yourself, and with your peers around you, and how that can follow you throughout your life.
And it's a 10-week program. So what, you don't even have to be a runner to lead these things. We'll talk more about
Not at
that.
all.
But what's in this curriculum?
Yeah, so there's a lot of, we talk a lot about within ourselves, within dealing with our others and peers and our different community members. At the end of each season, they also do a community impact project, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But some of our lessons are about conflict resolution and how to handle being a good friend when somebody may not be being a good friend to you. How do you kind of handle that? How do you, if you're feeling frustrated about something, how do you handle that yourself? Do you stop and take a breather? Do you do you just immediately react? And all of these lessons are encompassed through our, like I said, our curriculum. It's evidence-based, it's wonderful curriculum, and it's step by step for our coaches. So they're able to walk through exactly what they need to do and have that conversation.
What incredible tools to have as a child to be able to have that when we all learned the hard way. It's very nice to have that.
And how amazing for these girls to then take it home to their parents.
Yeah,
I mean, because a lot of us weren't taught emotional, emotional strength and how to make those decisions when someone's not being nice to you. I mean, how
to avoid things.
Yes.
You're really good at that.
how to say, I feel statements. I feel this way when this happens. I would like this to happen differently in the future. I would like to be able to do this. I like it when you tell me that I'm doing a good job. I'd like to continue that. Those types of conversations we're having with our girls in, again, that really vulnerable age frame where you're learning so much. And, these girls, we've done a lot of research. We've had a lot of, we've had a longitudinal study about the effects of Girls on the Run and what that has done as girls have grown out of the program, as they've become young adults. And I mean, it's just staggering the information that we've gotten about it.
That's awesome. What a tool to have in your toolbox.
And so there's two ages, right? There's like a 3rd to 5th and then 6th to 8th. Is that right? So what would be the difference that you would learn as a 3rd grader versus an 8th grader? That's
a great point. So those ages, they're very intentional about the ages that we work with, right? So 3rd through 5th is that elementary school age group. They are learning a lot of different things. They're kind of learning how to deal with a lot of their peers in a different way. Once you get into that middle school age, that 6th through 8th grade, there's a lot more internally happening. There's a lot more emotions that are happening, a lot more uncomfortable emotions, uncomfortable feelings. And a lot of our programming focuses a lot on that and how to manage some of those really stressful pieces as you continue to grow, and then be really a catalyst in your community as well.
And then how do you use exercise specifically, since we're talking at the Run for Fun program, how do you use running to make those points even more important?
Absolutely. So each lesson is set up. There's kind of a topic that everybody's talking about. So whether that's conflict or communication or building friendships, those types of things, there's a lesson that's built into the component. Once we go into that lesson, there's a warm-up that's built into it. And a lot of times that warm-up and the workout itself are built around what that lesson is. So let's take how to be a good friend. We've got a workout that is designed with tools that we provide our coaches for our girls, and they ask questions, and the girls are doing a workout based on what the answers to those questions are. So that's kind of a brief example of that.
Yes, that is.
I'm going to have to use that in track sometime.
And so, now we have Coach here who is a coach and is a runner, but anybody could take on one of these could be a coach for these girls, even if that's not what you do for a living.
Absolutely. So a majority of our coaches that come in actually are not runners to begin with.
Oh, wow.
A lot of our coaches are teachers, are school social workers, guidance counselors. We have a couple of principals in administration that are part of our our program. And then what ends up happening is we provide national coach training to all of our coaches. They're required to attend in order to have a team at their school or their community center. And we walk through everything within the curriculum, everything within how that works. We're really fortunate that our curriculum is laid out so easy so you can just follow along with everything that's going to happen. All of the pieces are there for the coaches. It's a full day of training that they're able to be there so that we can encourage them to be able to present the lessons, the workouts, and also the training, because, a 5K is not an easy feat for somebody who's not a runner.
Yep.
A 5K, a lot of times, those who are participating in our 5K too are the grown-ups who are of those girls who may have also never completed a 5K before.
What a great way to get runners out there.
Yes.
Right. So what we're doing is within all of those workouts and within their running piece or their physical activity piece of the program during the 10 weeks, they're actually training for a 5K.
Good for them.
They
don't know it, right?
They don't know it. They're extending the time period. The coaches are extending how long the workout is going to be. They're extending how long their laps are going to be.
That's so great.
They're encouraging girls to have lap counters and exceed your goal from last week. What was your goal this last week? Oh, you hit 10 laps. Why don't we shoot for 11? Those types of encouragement. And what that's doing is giving the girls a tangible goal of completing the 5K in whichever way that is possible, whichever they need, and then being able to complete it once they get to the Celebration 5K.
That's amazing. Yeah. I know that I have a lot of runners that are coaches, and they get just as much out of it. They love Girls on the Run. They love to be coaches. They love to help these women and girls. It's really awesome to see.
Yeah. And
if you want to get involved, who do we reach out to?
Absolutely. So as we've said a couple of times, it is a national organization. We are the Tampa Bay chapter. So if you visit www.gotrtampa.org, you can get information on how to get involved with a team, how to volunteer, how to become a coach is on there as well. Our website has tons of information there. There's also a lot of information about our 5K, which is coming up next Saturday, May 6th. We are looking for volunteers and community runners, and we are just so excited to also be celebrating our 15th birthday this year.
Oh, how amazing.
How can people get involved if they're not a coach right now, but they want to go out and see and participate, and you say you need volunteers? How can they do that?
Yes. So if you, again, go to our website, www.gotrtampa.org. At the top, there's a little 5K button that you can hit right there. There's a lot of information about if you want to be a community runner, if you want to be a volunteer, anything is there. We are in downtown St. Pete at beautiful Albert Wooded Park. So you get to run right along Bayshore, right along the water there, which is just absolutely beautiful. And that's another thing that we really, really strive to show our girls too, is that you are so important, that we are in a very populated area. We shut down streets for you so that you can complete this.
Cool. Yes.
We've got, we are super lucky to partner with the city of St. Pete, and we have a lot of the police officers come out in full force. I know that they love being a part of our run as well. And it's just, we want to show the girls that you are so important, that we shut down streets for you. We are here for you. And we want to bring out as many people to be able to support them as well. So again, www.gotrtampa.org/5K is actually the best way to go about doing that. And then you can sign up as a community runner, as a volunteer. Our volunteers are really just, we've got a lot of different opportunities that are there within Celebration Village, and then along the course itself to kind of be mobile cheer stations and be able to get those girls that motivation they need to cross the finish line.
And we're hearing from Facebook, Rochelle Marie says that volunteering for Girls on the Run Tampa is awesome and that she highly recommends it. So thank you for not only watching today, Rochelle, but for volunteering. I mean, anybody can do it. And you will see, I've run this 5K. I have also helped volunteer for this 5K. The joy in not only those girls, because it is a celebratory, you did 10 weeks of training without knowing it maybe, but you did 10 weeks of training. And then, but the parents and the volunteer runners, everyone is running with a smile, and that's not something that you see with every 5K.
Absolutely, no. Absolutely. We like to say that we have the sparkliest 5K in town.
It is.
We have so much energy. There is not. And I will tell you that last girl that crossed that finish line, there is not a dry eye in the entire spectator and entirety of Celebration Village. It is just, everybody is just so proud and happy of the community that we've been able to bring together.
And we
Well,
just got
thank you so much for all that you do for the community.
Yes.
We're so thankful.
And we just got a question from Ken, and it's an interesting question. I think he may have been maybe joking a little bit, but I want you to weigh in on it. He said, how many men will be running this year?
So
the daddies that are out there are quite
yes,
good.
Absolutely. So, one of the biggest pieces that we really have to consider is the safety of our girls, right? So every girl who is a participant within Girls on the Run, they are required to run with a running buddy. Mm-hmm. Now, that can be mom, dad, that can be aunt or uncle, it can be a neighbor. We do have a handful of girls that need our help finding them a buddy. We do find that with our sparklers, which is another great opportunity to get involved. You're running as a community runner, but you got a really cool sparkle cape on your back. And then we do pair them. So we are able to have those girls. So Ken, I will say, we do have a lot of gentlemen who show up, and I will tell you that those dads will show up in tutus and tiaras more than the moms will.
It makes me, that's what I wanted you to tell him, because I saw some of those runner dads, and they couldn't be more proud of their little girl running that 5K.
Absolutely. And then, another thing that's a really good point to bring up is that our 5K is open to all. It is not just for girls and women. It is open to everybody. We want to encourage our community that running is, while our program is designed for girls, our 5K is to bring the entire community together. And that is a key component to our programming too, is that community involvement. And community is built up of so many people of all different, backgrounds, diversity, all of that. So we want to really make sure that we're encouraging that as well.
And one of the things that Coach and I talk about, Jessica, a lot is the parallels between the life lessons you learn from sort of distance running and just putting all your effort and thought into one type thing. If whether it's running or whatever it is, for us it's running, and life. Yeah. And I know that's something that Girls on the Run talks about as well.
Yes, absolutely. So again, it's setting those tangible goals. It's teaching, it's goal setting. It's teaching how we can set a goal and be able to complete it. That's a lot of what our 5K is that at the beginning, the very first lesson we tell the girls, you're going to run a 5K at the end of this, and you're not even going to know that it happened, because that's what we're doing. But we work with them to set those goals. And that's a lot of what it is goal setting and being able to complete that goal, being able to hit that piece so that you can do that throughout the rest of your life, right? Because we all have that. And being able to have a tangible sense of self of what you're capable of.
And I know you, Maria, you have seen people later in life join in running, but what a difference to be introduced to running in a loving way.
Yes, in a loving, kind way that's not punishment.
Yes.
And in a fun way, to have fun with it, because running really is fun. If you do it correctly and you can make, it's really fun.
And this is so mostly at the teams are at schools.
Yes.
And so what if how do they find out if it's at their school, and if not, how can they get it in their kids' school?
Absolutely. So on our website, we have a specific area about locations that are active. So you can go in and search for your school, search for your area. We also have it filtered through a map area, so you can kind of see what's local around you. If you're interested in bringing Girls on the Run or Heart and Soul to your school, you just reach out to us via email, which is on our website, and you can get that info. We can start that conversation. I will say that we are primarily at the schools just because that's where the girls are. Mm-hmm. We are an after-school program. It's a lot easier sometimes. So once we get the buy-in from our coaches and from our administration, we're able to just kind of set it up right there. It's very easy as far as transportation goes. But we are in a number of community centers as well. We've got a couple of YMCAs that are really active in what we do. And it's really, really great to have that opportunity as well. So yes, again, our website, www.gotrtampa.org. You can find all information about locations, where the program is, and how you can bring it to your area.
And then about how many girls are in each team?
So we have about 15 to 20 girls is the max for our team, along with a minimum of 2 to 3 coaches, but we encourage as many more as we can get, because that's a lot of girls per coach. So we really want to encourage a lot of that too. So 15 to 20 girls per team. We have about 30 teams this spring season right now.
Oh, wow, that's excellent.
And they will all be basically at the
I'll be at the
5K.
5K.
And so if people just want to spectate that,
Yes.
what do you suggest they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we are down at Albert Whitted Park in downtown St. Petersburg. If you are interested in getting involved in any way, whether that is spectating or not, I mean, I encourage you to visit our website, reach out to us, and we can kind of get you involved in that different way.
And you, Marie, I know we've talked a little bit about finding this joy. What is it that is the difference between a 5K like this and a 5K that someone might run on their own?
Well, I mean, they're trained for it properly.
Yes.
I think the atmosphere is better. It's not quite as competitive. I'm sure there is always going to be competition, and there's nothing wrong with competition. It's just, it can be a little overdone. So that's the best part of it, that it's not.
And so what do you see the difference between the week 1 and week 10?
Oh, I mean, I could go on and on about that. So one of the things that we're really proud of is our programming we've done a lot of research. Like I mentioned, our longitudinal study that happened several years ago about what has happened for our girls. 85% improved in their confidence from week 1 to week 10. So that's a big jump for a lot of girls in a very vulnerable age range where, a lot of times that there's a lot of societal pressure on girls. We have a lot of that societal pressure. I can say that girls' self-confidence tends to completely drop and decrease by the age of 9. So we are really focused on getting those girls in that time frame so that we can make them understand that, we can help them to understand it is so important. You are important. What you are doing, your existence is important. Additionally, 50% of girls in that 10 to 13 age are victims of bullies. Some of what our programming does is how to handle that for yourself, how to handle that about if others are being bullied. So we work a lot with those girls too. So from week 1 to week 10, you'll notice too, I mean, a lot of the girls who are super, super reserved and really just, sitting alone at practice and they're not really there, they have been brought into a group. They have a team, they have friends. And at week 10, they are no longer those quiet, reserved girls that are in the back. We've talked a lot about how you don't need to be a runner to be a girl on the run. And that's absolutely the case. Most of the girls who were not physically active at the beginning of the program are the ones who get the most out of our program.
Yeah, and so much of confidence is trying new things out and being successful, and then even failing and figuring out how to work through that. That builds a lot of confidence. And a 5K is hard. It's hard for that age group. And so when they can accomplish it, that's huge for their confidence, just accomplishing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We say achievement through accomplishment. And we are just, really, really happy to be able to witness that and to be able to see that in our community.
And it's the same for adults too.
We
We talked about that a couple podcasts ago, that when you try something new and you're successful at it, even just completing it, not being the best, just completing it can open up a whole new world for you of things that you can do in the future.
Absolutely.
And you're showing that to girls way earlier than I learned it.
Yeah, I could use that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I wish that Girls on the Run had been around like in my community when I was that age, because I feel like a lot of my confidence would have come a lot earlier in
Now,
life.
do you worry that by calling it Girls on the Run that you are, because people are scared of running, that it's like to get them to know that this is not, it's not just running, it's all about building your confidence? How do you get the girls and their parents to know that?
Yes, so it's a lot of communication. We send out a lot of communication about that. A lot of our information is sent out. We have that conversation with all of our coaches who get involved, with all of, we work really closely with our school districts within our territory so that they're also very understanding of that as well. Because it can be a misnomer. It can be a little bit hard to kind of get past that. But the reality is that it's not a running program. It is absolutely a life skills, and it's, being able to come on to podcasts like this and be able to talk through some of that is really important, that awareness of what we do and why it's important.
Well, I know that I have, when I was a sparkle runner, I had my sparkle cape, and I live streamed the whole thing on WFLA's Facebook page. And it was, so many people watched that live stream a couple of years ago because it was joyful. Like, I ran up next to girls and talked to them, and then the parents, everybody to see that joy. And that is where, we created this show to help show people that, running isn't this hard thing to dread. Look how joyful it can be. And whether you come through it as a child through Girls on the Run, which would be lovely, or if you come to that as an older adult, the life skills, the love that you find in this community it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, one of the best things about the 5K is that we really encourage, we encourage our teams, encourage our girls and coaches to stick around until the last girl finishes, because we want to make sure that no girl finishes last, but more importantly, no girl finishes alone. And I feel like that's a really important piece to remember too, is that you have a community around you, you have supporters, you have cheerleaders who are there to be with you. And that can be really hard for girls of that age to remember sometimes. We want to be able to encourage that. And I think that really speaks to our community runners and our older runners who are there, who may not have gone through the program, who are there as volunteers, to see these young girls come together and support that last girl to come across the finish line.
And you should do that at any race.
Yes.
that last runner has been out there on their feet for a very long time.
Yes.
And it is hard.
Yes.
It is
equally as hard.
Equally as hard. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that the race in downtown St. Petersburg is not this Saturday, but next Saturday, May 6th. And we really hope it's a huge success.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be here. And we hope to see many of your followers out there. So please sign up.
Thank you so much. Yes, Maria, we have talked about learning that joy, and my goodness, Girls on the Run. We know mainly the adults who are getting joy out of being coaches.
Yeah, and it makes me wish that I had it when I was a kid, because I was a little overweight, and I was scared to try any kind of sports activity. I was a musician. I grew up in a musician family. Like, we all were musicians, so I was afraid, and I lacked confidence for a long time. So, like, if I had had a program like that, that would have been awesome.
Because it serves up that not only physical but emotional health at the same time. Whereas I feel like in our lifetime, it was okay. You can be in sports and it is hard, or you can not and it's easier. This is like, hey, you can do both. You can do fun things that's also good for your health.
For sure. And it's also the stories you tell yourself, right? Like, as a kid, those stories you tell yourself of what you can and can't do. I just thought I couldn't do it. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not a runner. Like, I'm a musician. I'm following in my mom's footsteps. That's what I should be doing. But the reality of it is, then years later, I did the 23andMe, and it came back and told me that I should have been an athlete. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been telling myself all these stories all these years about what I should be doing, and I wasn't right.
Yeah. Because you just weren't exposed to it.
I wasn't exposed to it.
In a way that was loving.
I just didn't know.
Yeah. So you were exposed to music, and you're really good at that.
I am. And also a testament to, it said that I wasn't going to be a musician as I thought. And I did work really hard to do that. And you can, through hard work, do something that you don't think you can do either. So there's a huge benefit to both. But I would have loved to have exposure. I wouldn't have wanted it in a competitive way at that age. And I think I would have, shied away from that. So it's a neat program.
Well, we are glad that there's so many chapters here. So if you are interested, please go to their website. If you're not busy Saturday morning, May 6th, please just go out and just spectate this. You will never see a happier group of people running 3.1 miles. And that's saying something coming from someone who loves to run 3.1 miles.
And those girls will appreciate you being out there cheering them on. It's a hard thing to run a 5K when you're that age. I'm impressed.
Yes, I'm very impressed. Coach, you ready for your drill?
I am.
All right. So for those of you who are just joining us, we have a new segment called Coach's 3-Minute Drill. Because Coach has a lot of thoughts on things.
A lot of opinions.
A lot of opinions. And we have to, we're going to limit her to 3 minutes on a topic every podcast. And it's up to her what she wants to talk about. Here we go. 3 minutes.
Go.
Let's go.
All right. Well, since we're talking about Girls on the Run, I'm going to talk to parents a little bit. And I'm speaking from a perspective of my own parenting and the mistakes that I made. So don't get offended because I made them. But I think as parents, we get really excited about watching our kids do really incredible things, and we tend to try to push them a little harder than we probably should. And the kids, I think we don't realize that our kids are such people pleasers and they want to please their parents that a lot of times they just go along with it, and we think that they love it when they don't really know any better. And it's our job as parents to moderate that. So the new research is showing that the kids that are more successful later in life are the ones that have been playing multiple different sports, exposed to many different things, and not specializing until after puberty. Do you hear me? It's after puberty. So if you are a parent of these kids and you want your kids to be successful, please make it fun. Please ask them if they are having fun. That should be the major part of any kind of sport they do growing up. I did not do that. My kids both got burned out. I tried my hardest, they were both swimmers, to take them out of the program when I thought it was too intense, and it still was too intense for them. And they told me they loved it all along. So I don't want to hear, but my kids love it. And my Aunt Dee Dee, she's a gym coach, and she told me early on, she said, Maria, do you think the kids are going to get burned out doing this? And I was like, no, Dee Dee, they love it. They just love it. They come home every day. And she's like, do they really? And I argued and said, no, they love it. They want to go to practice. And I don't think I realized that they were trying to please Luke and I. Now, I do think there's a lot of great things that came out of those programs. And I think it's amazing to have the opportunity to be in sports. But pushing your kids too hard will come at a cost at some point. So please try to make it fun. Please stop pushing your kids, and please stop living vicariously through your children. Please stop doing that. It's just not right. It's detrimental to their health. And guess what? They're going to go further in life when they have more opportunities and more experiences, and just throw them in everything. And they'll tell you, they'll have a good time. I almost made it.
You did.
Wait a second. I almost made it all 3 minutes.
All right, well, you can't talk anymore. But and I know. Thank you for being vulnerable and showing that things that you looking back now as both of your kids are very successful. That maybe they, if they had had more access to or done different things, you don't know where they would have ended up.
I think if I could go back, I actually would have put them in a recreational program that was less intense, because my kids were both in competitive swimming. Mm-hmm. And they were mediocre. They weren't like the best on the team, and they weren't the worst on the team. And I even got caught up in like, oh my gosh, they're doing so good, and my kid can do the butterfly, and it's easy to get caught up even when you're not one of those parents, and it's easy to get caught up in it and forget that at the end of the day, when they're a sophomore and they quit, and you're just like, oh my gosh, and you're heartbroken. Like, well, maybe this isn't my journey. Maybe it's their journey.
Well, I appreciate you again. You were letting other people live by your mistakes, which you say
I always do.
Part of your job as a coach is to not let people make the same mistakes. So now you're spreading that to everyone listening.
Yeah,
so.
I literally told one of my clients this week, I said, did you ask your kids if they had fun? Because we're so quick to be like, we're so quick to say, how did you do? How did you do? And think that that's helping them with their confidence. But it doesn't actually, because if they're not doing well or they're questioning it, it really, really is detrimental to them. So if they're having fun doing it and working hard, that's the winning combo.
And then would you say even, making sure that they're not just, like you said, not specializing?
Not specializing.
Because you were specializing in singing.
Yes.
And you weren't even exposed to some of these other things.
Your muscles are not ready for specializing. And a lot of times I see a lot of people that start their kids with running, especially like pre-puberty, and their bodies are totally different. They're lighter. They're, they can run faster because they're shorter. and they weigh less. And so then when they go through puberty, they can't hit those times anymore and they get discouraged and they don't like their body because they're like, wait, I used to be able to do this and now I can't. Whereas if they never tried to do that earlier and got really fast, they wouldn't have anything to compare it to. Do you see what I'm saying? And it is detrimental to their confidence at that point.
Well, that was a great 3-minute drill.
That ended up being 6 minutes.
Well, that's okay, but because we are talking about girls on the run and starting it at a young age and starting it in a way that is helpful and supportive and
that they
fun.
don't know that they don't know that they're training like that, and they're not, and it's not time based because so many of us parents are like time based, you know. So
all right. Great job, Maria. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us and talking about Girls on the Run. And thank you for what you do for the girls in our community. And good luck on that 5K May 6th in downtown St. Petersburg.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
All right.